Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to Finance Friday. This is the show where we transform your relationship with your money by giving you the information you need to grow and protect your wealth. I'm going to share this out right now.
You should too.
You should too. I'm also going to put this on our podcast, The Nova Wealth Show. It's on iTunes.
Hey,
see, there you go.
That's
There we are. I might have sounded really Wisconsin there. Like,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. We're just sharing it out if you're just joining us.
All right.
Definitely follow us on Instagram at Nova Wealth Management. We're doing some fun stuff there. Our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter. We have all the social media stuff. If you have any questions, check out our website, nowealthmanagement.com. You're probably wondering if this is the first time you're joining who we are. I am Amy Novakovich. This is Ryan Wilson. And we are going to talk about income today, all things income.
Woo.
Yeah. Woo!
Money.
You know, this isn't just, if you're thinking like, oh, well, I'm not in retirement, this isn't for me. Well, if you know of somebody in retirement or if you're planning for retirement, so really
Everybody.
Covers everybody.
Huh. How about that? We did that. Covers you. If you're watching
We did do that.
Covers you.
So I also like to give away just like a little tip, like right away. I'm totally winging this right now. I don't know what I'm about to say. We're just going to see what comes out. I always like to give like a little tip right away in the beginning. And I'm super sick, so I'm hoping that I can think of something right now.
Good over-the-counter medicine for a cold.
Good over-the-counter medicine for a cold. So I like to give a tip right away. So actually, all of you that are waiting for tax forms, so we just had today a first time an ETF, an exchange-traded fund. So usually exchange-traded funds and mutual funds are similar, right? They're just a basket, a portfolio of investments, plain and simple. They usually kick off 1099s, which is income, like dividend income, capital gains, things like that. Today, there's a commodity ETF that kicked off a K1, which K1s don't normally go out until March. K1s are partnership distributions. So I guess I would add that to my tip like right away, right now, as you're waiting for your tax forms. K1s come in March. So don't always be like super crazy to go run out and, file your tax returns because you might still have a K1 coming or a corrected 1099. That's the other thing. We haven't seen those come out yet. So you might have a corrected 1099. All right, cool. So let's get into it. So retirement income. So a lot of people will depend on their investment portfolios or 401ks or Social Security, which we've actually talked about before, that Social Security, I mean, if you want to just live on Social Security, great. But what did we find? Do you remember the number? I'm not really remembering right now. What's the maximum Social Security? Like right now, it's way different from like our age when we get there. But I want to say right now it's around $2,500 a month. And so if you can live on just that, I don't know what our maximum is. That's something that we could probably do a different Finance Friday. You can live on something just that. Thank you, Michael. That's great. However, we probably want to have a little more options, right? Like it's always not fun to be super strapped and at the mercy of the government.
Well, a lot of people that are younger don't even really plan on it. Like if it's there, it's great, but you almost have to, you don't really know what it's going to be like at that time. So
correct. You just never know. So it's up to you to save. Because I always say your future self doesn't just show up with a bunch of cash like, hey, you ready to retire? Here you go. Doesn't show up that way. So you have to plan, you have to do it yourself so that your future self is happy with you. Okay, so one of the things that income usually people do is they either look to pensions, which no longer really a thing.
Yeah.
There are some places like some FRS, government, but not a lot of employers do pensions at all. I mean, I haven't seen that in a long time. So it's really just government. Besides that, you have your 401ks. So what can you do with your 401ks? We're going to talk about that today. A lot of people will depend on annuities, life insurance, which I wouldn't depend on just life insurance either. We'll talk about that. CDs and bonds. A lot of people live on their CDs. So we're going to talk about all these ideas today. First ones I want to talk about is what can you do with your 401k? So your 401k can be rolled over into an individual retirement account. So it's not with your employer anymore. It's rolled into an IRA, and you can invest it in whatever you want. So you can invest it into an annuity, or you can invest it into investments like stocks and bonds. And so the question is what's right for you? You know what I mean? So you want to go over real quick, like how we might determine like how much to do you need an annuity or do you need a stock portfolio?
Yeah, I think one would be.
Hey guys, thanks for joining.
So your risk level. So as you're retired, you're obviously going to be needing income, and so we're going to probably look at some bonds and things that pay a dividend, or bonds pay interest. So things that will pay
if you're not familiar with bonds, we actually have investment courses to teach you all about investments. Like we have just a bonds course so that you could actually learn about bonds. But for the sake of this Finance Friday, we're not going to get into it right now.
Yeah. So, but figuring out what's the best for you is a lot of times just asking what your intent is and how much income you need is a big one, and
that's huge.
And then figuring out what your basket and bucket of money is, and then figuring out how long we can make that last. And if it's a longer, like if it's more money, then we can be a little bit more
aggressive. We can
be more aggressive, or have a section of it that's aggressive and some that can actually be a little bit more conservative because you have enough to live off of.
Right.
Or if you need to be more aggressive, then we can also do that, keeping in mind that there's potential that you would draw from that money as you get older.
Yeah, I had that on my notes too.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No, you're fine. So what I was going to say is some people ask me, how do I know how much I need?
Right.
Like I get that question a lot. How do I know how much income I need in retirement?
Mm-hmm.
And a simple exercise that I do with people is, okay, let's just take $1 million. It used to be, I remember when I first got into this business. So it would say like, oh, you need $1 million to retire. Well, let's think about this for a minute. $1 million, conservatively, a great interest rate right now is 5%, don't you say?
Yeah.
And on average, in the history of treasuries, the 10-year treasury bond, it's just a 10-year investment. It's basically debt of the government. Pay 4%. So 5% is just a little bit above that. So 5% is great. 5% of $1 million is 50 grand a year. Okay. Add on your Social Security, call it, I don't know, 30 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, if you've got $1 million and you've got your Social Security, you've got all your credits. Remember, if you've always been like a 1099 subcontractor, you're not necessarily paying into Social Security. So remember that comes into planning. We should do another Finance Friday about that. I got to write down all these ideas. If you guys have ideas for Finance Friday, please tell us.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Please message us. Yeah, like what do you want to know? So good. I'm like going into it. But so if you take $1 million, 5% of $1 million is $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
That would allow you to live on just the income and not touch your $1 million. You see where I'm going with that?
Yep.
So you could invest it so that $1 million keeps growing too, because if you make more than 5%, obviously that grows.
Yeah.
Markets fluctuate, investments fluctuate, but you're not touching the core assets. We call it the corpus.
And to get a specific number, if you know what your income that you need in retirement, if you divide that by that 5%, which is what kind of your expected interest rate, that'll give you a number that is like, okay, if I have this number, then I can live my whole life and never touch that principal amount.
Right. Yeah.
So absolutely. If you just divide it, take the number that you need for income, divide it by your percentage rate, and you'll be able to know. And then you can say, okay, well, 5%, but what if I did 7? And then you can play with it a little bit to figure out, if I only had this much, then I can still make it work for a certain
right. Because his point is like, obviously you could take more than 50,000. Like if you have $1 million, you could take 60,000.
Right.
But I feel like comfortably, I could say you could really live on 5% and never have to touch the $1 million. So it could have the opportunity to grow, and then you would be able to leave a legacy. Now, of course, you could pull 6%, 7%, but then you might be dipping into your $1 million. So now you're kind of eroding away your principal. And some people are okay with that. But again, for those of you just joining, we're answering the question, how do I know how much income I need? Hey, Jonathan, what's up? How do I know how much income I need in retirement? And you got to think bigger, guys, because like I said, $1 million, 5%, hey, Jill, 5% is 50 grand. And then you got your Social Security, that's 80 grand a year. Okay. So you better be shooting for at least $1 million. Like this is not like, oh, millionaires. Like, no, like you're going to need around there to live like really, really comfortably. Okay. So then what do you do with the investments? What happened here? Share this out, guys. If you're learning something, please share this out. Like it would be so awesome if we could get several shares. And then I actually will do a giveaway.
Ooh. That's fun. What are you going to give away?
I don't know. I'm not going to say it yet.
Okay. Surprise giveaway.
I'll post it on Instagram later.
Ooh, I like what you did
one
there.
of the things that you can do, right? So now what do I invest it in? Or if I'm already in retirement, what do I invest it in? Obviously, there's dividend paying stock. Now, there's going to be some of you sitting there saying, what's a dividend? What's a stock?
Yeah.
This is not the show to get into that. We have plenty of other shows, plenty of other YouTube videos. I even did one with Hope on stocks.
Yeah.
Hope's my 4-year-old daughter, if you didn't know, by the way.
She knows a lot about that.
She does. So on YouTube, we're going to get into breaking down what a dividend, what a stock is. But for the sake of this show today, you can do dividend paying stock. I would never recommend putting all of your retirement money in just dividend paying stock. Mm-hmm. Look at GE, look at GM. I mean, there are crazy examples that you have to be diversified in all different kinds of investments, not just dividend paying stock. But with that said, I do have a client. He hasn't joined yet. But I do have somebody that told me once, this was really great. He said, if I'm on a deserted island and all I had was a mailbox and I had my dividend paying stocks and all I got was my checks though, I would never need to know about what my stocks were doing. I just get my dividend checks. It's like, that's true until one stops paying the dividend.
Yeah, if it cuts dividend. If it,
so you better have a lot of money then to have enough stock to be diversified, right? To be diversified so that you don't have to worry about that one stock, so that some stocks are increasing their dividends even though other stocks might be decreasing their dividends. So dividend paying stock, if you are just joining us, we're talking about what you can do with your retirement funds, with your retirement portfolio when you get to retirement to live on income. Or if you're already retired, or if you know somebody that's retired, these are things that you can do to generate income in retirement. And by the way, no single one of these options is like the end all be all.
Yeah.
You have to do a little bit of everything to be successful. So obviously there's things like real estate that you can invest in as well. Real estate is a great passive income generator. You can build up real estate. That's fabulous. And there's different ways to invest in real estate. There's another Finance Friday. I'm writing these down, man. I'm telling you, what do you guys want to hear on Finance Friday? Because I think I just thought of 3 different things. How to invest in real estate. Jonathan, I should bring you on for that if you're still on. Okay, so what else you can do? Let me go back to my list. Dividend paying stocks. You want to go over annuities, like what annuities do for people?
Yeah, so an annuity you can put money into, and basically there's a couple different ways of doing it. One, it just grows and it accumulates, but the main reason for annuity is it makes almost a pension for yourself. So we talked about earlier.
That is the reason for annuity.
That a lot of companies aren't doing pensions anymore, and so it kind of lets you set that up for yourself by putting an amount of money in, it grows, and then it guarantees an income for the rest of your life.
And by the way, if you've ever been pitched to do an annuity for any other reason other than income, please second guess that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is just something I have to throw out there. I have to be real with you guys. I hope you're okay with me being real. But like legitimately, I've done one annuity in the last 12 months. It is not something that is right for everybody. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that gets sold to people as like, oh, this is like the best thing and you should always have an annuity. So if you know somebody who's been contemplating an annuity or who has like 5 annuities, or you've been contemplating an annuity, just take a step back, because the real reason an annuity makes sense is income. For those of you just joining, we're talking about different ways to generate retirement income.
Yeah, and even in that, there's certain places where even the income for that is good. And we won't get into that because that can be really long, but I would just say one thing to look at.
We need to do another Finance Friday on annuities. I'm actually not a huge fan of annuities. I'm going to just throw it out there.
But you have to keep in mind that a lot of things that people don't take into account when you're thinking about retirement is that it's down the road if you are planning. Now, if you're in retirement, obviously there's not as much down the road planning as right now to accumulate income. But if you're looking 15, 20 years in the future, and you're looking at annuity and it's like, oh, it's going to pay 5% of this, and that's going to be X amount of dollars. Well, you also have to take into the idea that say $2,000, for example, or $5,000, for example, is not going to be worth the same amount in 20 years as it is now.
Absolutely.
And so is that going to be income that you're able to live on at that point, or is it going to be able to achieve the goal that you bought the annuity for 20 years down the road? And that's something to think about.
A better picture to illustrate that is that $10,000 today doesn't get us what $10,000 got us 25 years ago.
Right.
Got us a lot more.
Right.
So his point is you're building a retirement income stream without that like inflation rider. And then also the other thing about annuities, and then we're going to let annuities die.
Yeah.
We're gonna let it die. But annuities is there's a break even, right? So at first you're just getting your own money back, guys. Like you're building up this chunk of money, right? And then they're gonna guarantee you income for life, but you got to run through your money first to get the money off of the insurance company, right? So annuities aren't always the best thing. Please don't ever put all of your retirement money in an annuity. And if you do an annuity, please at least double, triple check it with other people just to make sure it's the right fit.
There are specific uses for them, but it's not an end all be all. That's for sure.
Going back to my list.
All right.
Thank you for joining. Share this out if you find it valuable. We're talking about income in retirement or how to save for income in retirement. So we talked about dividend paying stocks, a dividend paying stock portfolio. If you're not sure what dividends are, I would have to reference you to our YouTube channel or our podcast. I think I have a whole podcast on dividends.
That's a fun one.
Oh yeah. Annuities. What else did we talk about? Is that all we've talked about so far?
Yeah.
Anyway,
dividend,
okay.
Annuities.
Oh, I mentioned a CD ladder.
And you talked about the dividend paying stocks.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I think you said that already.
Yeah. So now life insurance. So now a lot of people that we know, like life insurance is sold to them as like the rich man's Roth, which is true. So as long as you are already putting money away into retirement plans and you're already putting away money into places for retirement and you're maxed out, because there is limits on those, then look into possibly using life insurance. Now, keep in mind, you're still paying for a death benefit on life insurance, okay? And when you pull out the money, you have to structure it so that your loans, because when you pull out the money in life insurance, it's a loan of your own money. So you have to run an illustration and make sure it fits in your plan. The way we use it is that if you have a life insurance policy with a lot of cash value, we have used it in tandem with our investment portfolios, because that way in down years, you can pull from the life insurance, right? So that way you're not pulling from the investment portfolio that's more aggressive, because typically the way we work it is the life insurance is more conservative.
Right.
You're like, you have a whole life with a dividend, or you have an indexed UL that has that floor. So we use it in tandem, not just life insurance.
Right.
So I say again, if you know of anybody that just for their retirement planning has like 5 life insurance policies, or they're considering doing like 3 different life insurance policies right now, definitely take a step back, ask some questions, get a second opinion, because it's not the end all be all. It's a really great piece of the overall plan.
And I think just something quick I would touch on that is, don't be blinded by this great dividend that they're paying now, and then saying, oh, and you'll be able to take it out at retirement. Because I think the key thing to look at in those plans is, again, thinking in the future that you're going to be taking out at retirement, thinking about the fact that it's going to be taken out as a loan, so it has an interest rate. So making sure that interest rate is what they call a wash interest rate.
Right.
Some companies will sell you on the high dividend. It's going to be or high index, where you're going to be getting a pretty good return, but then they're going to take a 10% loan, 10 or 12% loan in the future.
Well, that might be exaggerating, but like I did legitimately.
That's an example
just
that was given. Yeah, and so they'll
10%.
Yeah, and so you're losing money on it.
I just saw one with Guardian that was I shouldn't say companies' names. I just saw one that was 7.4% and the dividend's 2.8.
Right. So
I mean, that's awful. Like, so you're paying 7.4% to get your own money out, and you're only earning 2.8.
Right.
So you just got to double check these. If you're just joining us, we're just talking about different ways to get income for retirement. We've talked about annuities, and now we've moved on to life insurance. Has to be just a piece. A life insurance vehicle is not an end-all be-all retirement plan. It isn't. It is an awesome planning tool. So it's a piece of the overall pie if it's done correctly. Awesome planning tool. For estate planning, taxes, too, for business owners, great tool. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about some people, and you mentioned this earlier, when you're using your gains, when you use your investment gains to live on instead of income. I feel like we need to explain this one a little bit because people are like, aren't I always living on the gains? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got to clarify that a little bit.
Okay.
So when you build an investment portfolio, there are some investments that pay income. You know, like real estate, like you buy real estate.
Right.
If you rent it out, it has an income stream. If you don't rent it out, you're depending on the gains.
Right.
You're buying it and you want to sell it higher. So just like stocks or mutual funds, some have dividends with an income. Some don't have dividends, you're literally buying them for the appreciation aspect of it. So if you structure your investment portfolio to where you want to live off of your gains, you're not really having anything consistent.
Yeah, there's no guarantee because the stock, you can't guarantee that the stock, like whereas a interest payment on a loan is going to be paid out every month
consistently.
And so, but a stock like a ETF or a stock that you're looking at, if you're looking at using that to live on, you have to hope that it's going to go up. Now that's where if you're diversified enough, potentially could be a little bit more consistent, but you're still looking, the market still has to go in a direction in order for
absolutely
that
you need help.
Yeah.
Right. So like with income, if you're structuring your investments for income, closer and closer you get to retirement. And that's a key too that I want to point out. Everybody says, oh, I need to get more and more conservative towards retirement. I'm more concerned with you going more and more towards income in retirement if you're living on it for income. So versus, I just want to be safe in retirement. It's like, well, if you're going to live on it, you got to structure it for income.
Right.
So you better start buying like a real estate property or an annuity, which I'm not a huge fan of, or buying dividend paying stocks, and think less about, I just need to go to safe and principal preservation. That's for somebody that already has like a pension then, so there's different situations for different people. Everybody is different. But if you're living on investment gains, I wrote down that's not really tax efficient though either.
Right.
I guess if it's in an IRA, gains are irrelevant. It's all about what you pull on the income. But if it is a non-IRA or a non-retirement account, if you're living on gains, hey, Bo, if you're living on gains and you have to sell things to generate your income, you're going to have more taxes than what the average person just living on an income portfolio would have. So look at that tax efficiency, because you don't have to do that. You don't have to live on your gains. You can structure it so that it's more tax efficient. I'll just leave it at that, because that's another Finance Friday, talking about tax efficiency. See, look at me coming up with all these. Again, if you have different topics that you want to hear on these Finance Fridays, anything about money, anything about investing, please let us know. Shoot it in the comments or message us. Any subjects that you want, but definitely let us know. Okay, so my daughter has dance and I'm getting a phone call right now. Sorry. Okay, so thank you for joining us. So we have one. You want to go over the buy sells, or should we leave that for a different day too? We've already been going for 22 minutes.
I think
we'll just leave it with this. We'll do a whole nother Finance Friday on buy sell agreements for businesses. So that involves life insurance. That involves structuring your shareholder agreements. It involves income. So we'll definitely talk about that. It involves tax planning. So we'll do that. So that's very time consuming. So we're going to actually wrap this up right now. So just in quick review, to get income in retirement, right? You can look at dividend paying stocks that pay an income, usually quarterly. You can look at life insurance just to supplement an investment portfolio. It's very important because I want you maxing out your retirement plans first before you look at life insurance for retirement. Annuities, again, very small amount in annuities because you're pulling out your own money first. Really, annuities are for people that have longevity and they're really scared of the market. Like they're really super, super conservative. They're super scared of real estate. They're super scared of anything. They have money under the mattress. So annuities are good for people that have longevity and they're conservative. And then just being more tax efficient on your investment portfolio, making sure you're not living off of gains and you structure it more for income. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Maybe we'll talk about buy sells next week.
Maybe. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Have a great weekend. Thanks.